Good morning, everyone. So it's my pleasure to be with all of you today to reflect, dear catechists of St. Joseph's Parish, on the theme, Catechesis is communication. I understand this is part of a month-long program of reflection in the parish, where you take time to reflect on various themes connected with different dimensions of an important ministry in the church, which is catechesis. Here on this picture that you have on the screen, screen is not working. Okay, could we have the, is it on? Yeah. So here on this picture that you have on the screen, we have a very moving image from the hidden life of Jesus, where he sits among the teachers of the law. We read in the Gospel of Luke chapter 2, verse 46, that he was sitting among the teachers, listening to them, and was asking them questions. In a matter of 3 days, the teachers and the Christ child seem to have developed a deep bond and are engrossed in deep dialogue, a model of perfect communication. They are in fact even learning from each other. So as we take this day to reflect, I would just like you, dear catechists, to keep this image of this dialogue between the Christ child and the teachers of the law in your mind. The ministry of the catechist. Can we advance to the next slide? So we have these title slides for you. Yeah. So that you will keep the theme of the different sections in mind. Recently, a few weeks back, Pope Francis instituted the ministry of the catechist. I'm sure that some of you may have followed this on the news. Most of you may have followed this on the news. So the Pope was wishing to show how important this service of catechesis that we all do is important in the heart of the church. It is an essential ministry that we carry out in the formation of our children who are being equipped through our hands for a life of service as good individuals who are capable of making responsible, ethical and moral choices, playing key roles in society, and being a force for goodness, a transformational force in the midst of the world. In the building up of individuals, whether they are children or adults, there are several aspects of formation. There is the intellectual, physical, emotional, and social aspects. As catechists, however, we deal with the spiritual aspect, which has power to influence all other aspects of a child's life and future. This aspect also helps them to discover the ultimate purpose of their lives, the purpose of their education, the purpose of their future career, even the purpose of the relationships, the lasting relationships that they will enter into as a spouse, and building up their families. In other words, in the terms of catechesis, catechesis is going to help the children to qualify the spiritual aspect as an experience which we will call eternal life, or a life in communion with the Blessed Trinity. It is also the communion with the Trinity that our children are going to find meaning and bearing for their entire life and the answers to their deepest questions. In the ministry of catechesis, the aspect of efficient communication is indispensable, and it is to reflect briefly and jointly with you on this aspect that I am tasked with today. So let's enter into our topic. Let's have the next slide, catechesis and communication. As catechists, we are called to primarily communicate with God and then with the children entrusted to our care. In addition, Catechists are also called to foster good relationships with the parents of the children whom they teach. They must communicate with everyone also as part of the organization whom they represent, which is the church, in our context, the Vicariate. Also the specific parish church. In addition, catechists report to the parish department of catechesis, which is directly responsible for their work in the parish. The formation of catechists in their turn and the drafting of the Vicariate catechetical program is entrusted to the Office of Christian Formation, which supplies the necessary policies on the level of the Vicariate. Through this office, catechists also maintain lines of communication with the bishop to ensure that they are all acting as pastoral agents in line with the pastoral vision of their shepherd. Now let us have a few questions for self-evaluation. We know that we have all taken these few days, every Friday, as I understand, this month of July, to reflect on our journey. We take stock of the past year. We look forward to the coming year. So let us have a few questions. We have these questions will be displayed on the screen. And let us allow ourselves to ponder and reflect on our journey. How would we evaluate the effectiveness of our own communication in catechesis? Were we able effectively to assimilate the core concepts of the lessons, each lesson? Were we able to communicate them effectively? Were our children able to take home the core concepts? What can we do to improve our communication? The next question, please. Yeah. How can we improve? What are the basic skill sets that will be an advantage that we lack? What are some of the skill sets that we already have, which again need to be continuously developed? Do we need to learn new skills? Do we need to adapt? Has the challenging situation of the pandemic, has it caught us, many of us, by surprise? As it may have challenged us, how do we adapt to the new virtual learning environment? How can we equip our children to adjust to the new mode of lessons? How can we involve parents in the whole exercise of catechesis more effectively? As we can see, the questions and challenges are many. We can be thankful, however, that there are many on the leadership teams whose responsibility it is to reflect on these questions. Within a collective environment, they will propose test methods, evaluate results, propose solutions, and recommend best practices for us. We have teams on the vicariate level who set policies, teams on the parish level who will evaluate test cases or pilot projects, then decide on the best way forward within parish environments. So we have help and assistance to guide us. Communication with God and communication with others. For our reflection today, let us focus on some of the most pressing questions. Let us look at two essential points which we know are inseparable: communication with God and communication with others. If we really want to reflect on how well we communicate, you and I communicate, we must not limit our examination merely within catechesis, but we must open ourselves and have the courage to honestly examine how efficiently we communicate as individuals, also in other spheres of our lives. We have again for our introspection a few quotes from Pope Francis on communication taken from the World Day of Communications in 2015, focused on the theme communication and mercy. Every year, the Pope releases a message for the World Day of Communications. He does this to remind each one of us of the importance of communication, which plays a vital role in the success of every ministry, the work of every institution in the church, the work of every office. We all know how indispensable communication skills are, communication gifts are. Let us now pay attention to the on-screen quotes. And I would again request everyone to take a few moments with each quote. Let us allow the quotes to either inform us, inspire us, even challenge us to change direction, to open up to new areas, to move forward. Let us allow ourselves to be transformed. Let us have the first quote, please, on the slide. Let's take a few moments. Let's move to the next quote. Next quote. Let us move forward. Let us move forward. This is a very important quote. The Pope is telling us, even in cases where we must firmly condemn evil, we should try our best to ensure never to rupture relationships or to cut off communication. Let us move to the next quote, the final quote. Yes, so we now move to, after having reflected on these quotes, we can see the length and breadth of this word communication, which our Holy Father invites all of us every year, in fact, to reflect on new dimensions, current themes with a bearing on the current world. Now let us come to the communication in the specific scenario of our parish, in the catechetical program of our parish. So how did our parish respond to the communication challenges imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic? I would say that our parish had a very good response strategy. We know that the key word which even governments are using as the key to unlock the closed doors and situations during the pandemic, and something that our parish is quite good at, is the word innovation. Why don't we try something new and see if it will succeed and can break through barriers and problems? We all, just to see how innovative our Holy Father has been, we just have to keep in mind when the pandemic hit, churches were closed, people were sitting inside, they could not attend Mass, they could not have access to confession. We just have to think of how our Holy Father boldly stepped forward and said, now I'm going to have my private Mass in my private chapel. I'm going to open it to the world. Daily, I am there with you to celebrate Mass. Your shepherd is with you. Daily in 30 minutes, he had the Mass for us. He conducted an adoration, benediction. We know so many people the world over were empowered, recharged. This is our 84-year-old Pope. Can we allow ourselves to be inspired? Can we allow ourselves to think of new ways? Let us trust in the Holy Spirit, for whom no door is too difficult to open, who always finds ways in challenging situations. This is also true for our catechetical programs. Our parish to replicate in-person encounters, which was missing during the pandemic, as all our schools, the compound was closed, children could not come. Our parish used a combination of high-quality video lessons, broadcast emails, forms, surveys, and WhatsApp groups. We were all involved in this exercise to communicate with our children. We kept the communication lines open. We kept the programs going forward. Each of these communication methods have certain specialities. The video lessons, high-quality video lessons, increased engagement with catechism children and their parents. The children liked the video lessons. They gave good ratings in the surveys. Parents approved the lessons. Both children and parents liked the presentations, the engaging and natural way in which teachers spoke. I remember while interacting with many of you, most of you turned up in front of the camera and with minimal training you started to speak, which we thought was pretty amazing. Our children could watch these programs at their convenience after a hectic week of online lessons. We did not have another online lesson at a specific time. Instead, we gave them flexibility. Our programs were a bit easy on the children, and the children appreciated it. Of course, what was missing was the direct interaction with the catechism teachers. We will come to that, how our parish is looking to, as I understand, to address that during the forthcoming year. The many broadcast emails. We all saw the hundreds of emails which came from the catechism office. I think the parish has to thank Sister Shelja, who regularly stayed up late, as far as I could notice, did not leave her post till the last email to the last class, to the last teacher or the last student had gone out. And we know all our priests. I have to congratulate Father Troy, Father Joby, and of course the parish priest, Father Johnson. I vividly remember the first meeting we had to launch something new, and I could see the enthusiasm which all three of them, our priests, had to try something new and to work for new solutions to challenges, find solutions. Forms and surveys. This was the primary method by which our parish evaluated how well the lesson had been assimilated. As I understand, between the class teachers and the department, they worked on these forms and surveys and ensured that these were submitted on time. The forms were simple, easy to fill, and we received feedback. We saw how well our children assimilated the lessons. Finally, WhatsApp groups. The Catechism department uses different WhatsApp group for classes, for teachers, by which they routinely communicate. A word about WhatsApp. While communicating with large and diverse audiences, communication scholars and experts say that it is one of the most effective communication tools, which has also proved its worth during the pandemic. WhatsApp is classified by communication experts as rich media, meaning that it facilitates instant communication and reception of feedback, as opposed to more traditional forms like emails, which are good for broadcast messages. Finally, the parish strategized to share some of the formation responsibility with the parents themselves, which was something that seemed to work very well. At least in many cases, the parish reported that they received feedback that the parents found the lessons engaging and even instructive. let us take a look at some of the slides which show us the feedback on the lessons. We can see there of about 2,600 children who are on the program, around 2,000 children responded, very high number responded. We can see the numbers on the very high, on the very satisfied and satisfied. Let's move to the next slide, which shows us the percentages in terms of administration, attendance forms, assessment forms, delivery of the lesson, content of the lesson, and timing of the lesson. Consistently, 60 to 70% report that they are very satisfied. 30% report that they're satisfied. And less than 1% report that they are unsatisfied. So we can see our lessons seem to get very good reviews. So how does the new academic year look like? As of now, I have been told that the parish catechetical department, with the feedback they have received, are going to continue the video lessons. They are also going to address the issue of lack of interaction with a monthly Zoom meeting with the students. I would just like to mention that in case you have not, please try to familiarize yourself very well with the Zoom interface. Probably you might need help with administering the Zoom meeting. In the initial stages, probably it might be worth to have 1 or 2 volunteers to help you out with various aspects in the meeting. Some of the students in the higher grades could volunteer. You have to test it out on a case-by-case basis if it works. They can help with muting, unmuting, spotlighting, spotting raised hands, etc. Whether it is Zoom or other video conferencing platforms that you are going to use, keep in mind, these platforms are constantly evolving, adding new features to mimic the real-world experience. So it's essential to keep ourselves updated with what the latest features are, what these tools can do for us. So please take time to watch 2 or 3 different video tutorials. You just have to Google best practices for using Zoom or the other video conferencing platform that the parish will use. I'm sure you will discover many different tips and tricks to use the platform effectively. Some lessons from experience on virtual lesson interaction. I was talking to some catechism teachers from other parishes. Among the difficulties mentioned are students appearing on time, students not turning on their video, students in smaller classes sometimes appearing in surprising attires. I'm not going into the details. Meeting children on their homes on the weekend sometimes can have interesting experiences. Also be aware that there could be distractions on the video. These could distract others too. Here is where volunteers can take care of these distractions as and when they pop up. We know that even a slight distraction during a real class can sometimes disturb the whole atmosphere. The same applies also for online platforms. Now, here is something important. I would recommend that as part of mentally preparing to start interacting with your students, decide beforehand, our peace or poise is not going to get disturbed by what we might experience as part of distractions. I think the key word to keep in mind when we use online or virtual platforms for teaching or learning is the word focus. Know that we have limited time, very limited time for a lesson, maybe 40 minutes. We cannot afford to lose focus of the lesson. Teachers must know how to know the tools. Teachers must be familiar with the tools to take control of the virtual class, to bring it back into focus. Can be as simple as muting everyone, making an announcement, putting yourself in spotlight, or having a theme picture broadcast and remind everyone to refocus. Options are many. It's up to us to discover what works for us. Finally, a few words on having an attractive appearance on the virtual world, invest a little on your online presence. Buy a decent headset for crisp audio, get a mobile lighting kit, which is very cheap, ensure that you are well lit, have a clutter-free background, so that the children have a very good learning experience. Most of you are also familiar with the new background, replace background feature. Let us move on to use of the media. New media platforms today offer tremendous opportunities for interaction, journey, and growth. I'm referring in specific to social media platforms, which offer new means for dialogue and interaction. However, navigating through today's platforms and discerning the underlying messages and intentions can be a bit daunting. Depending on your level of expertise on social media, I'd like to give some recommendations. Let us, before we enter into social media, let us start with the basics. We start with emails. I would recommend everyone to subscribe to a few quality daily newsletters to keep abreast with what's going on in the church in the current world. We can be sure that our children, of course, not small children so much, but as our children as they grow up, as they enter into the higher grades, they're all being influenced by, of course, we know by current events, what's happening in the world. Keeping abreast with high quality Catholic commentaries on current events will help us all to stay informed, to know how our children think, how they view the world, what are the key issues that are prevalent, what is an effective Catholic response to these issues. I would recommend, for starters, EWT and CNA newsletter. You get daily delivered to your inbox, Catholic News Agency. Or for those who read more, there is Crooks, which comments on Vatican issues. We know that sometimes some newsletters, some media outlets comment quite in a polarized manner on what's happening with the Vatican. Sometimes some media outlets and some individuals give the impression they are more orthodox than the Pope or the Majesty or those in the leadership. So subscribe to some healthy news commentaries. Vatican news, of course. So skimming through the headlines a few minutes a day just helps you to be current. If you're on social media, of course, we all know our parish has a vibrant Facebook page. Follow it, share, interact. There's a Vicariate Facebook page, the Vicariate Family Ministry Facebook page. If you are on other social platforms, it's good to be aware, especially as we deal with the higher grades. If you are on social media, it's good to be aware of Catholic influencers present on these social platforms. There are some amazing Pauline sisters who are on all platforms, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, you name it, they are there. Maybe our CSST sisters could be inspired. There are so many amazing Catholics out there on social platforms who are simply an inspiration to follow. So I think our elder teens or the senior teens would do good to be aware of the presence of these inspirational Catholic influencers. You will find apostles, teachers, musicians, missionaries, animal lovers, nature lovers, artists, sculptors, scientists, theologians. They are all those who are passionate about their faith. They are there. We just have to find them and to follow them. I'm sure all of you know Bishop Barron and Word on Fire. Now we come to the concluding section, communication in the context of the Vicariate. So let us wrap up by summing up the context of our communication within our ministry as catechists in the Vicariate. The Vicariate has a unique identity. which is the Catholic Church in UAE, Oman, and Yemen, and we are all a part of it. The story of our church began in Yemen. It spread all over the Arabian Peninsula. We are part, all of us communicate in the context of this story of a sensitive relationship with the Muslim world in the peninsula, which has steadily and patiently been built over a century of persistent dialogue. The part of the Christian migrant workers, all of us are a part of that. We have all done our share during these many decades to build these nations. We have contributed with our sincerity, integrity, honesty, Christian values, and this has definitely not gone unnoticed. The citizens of this country could see that our migrant presence was contributing in its own unique and rich manner to build the fabric of the nations in the Gulf. They could see the quality of our moral lives informed by our faith. They could also see the witness of our leaders, Bishop Gremeley, Bishop Paul, and the priests, sisters, and lay leaders, which all of you are a part. We can remember the scene during the papal visit where the Crown Prince was showing our Holy Father the pictures of the first church in Abu Dhabi. We could see this was something the UAE was proud of, their tolerance and openness. Continuing the story of this delicate witness, which has its own challenges, is the priority of the bishop. It is good to remind ourselves over and over again, we must remain closely united with the bishop in this sensitive mission. One of the greatest challenges for ministers and pastoral workers alike is to grasp the fact that we work with many limitations. Our unity is paramount. We know that branding and identity is a great part of modern communication. Branding and identity does not mean only the use of logos or graphics or colors, but it means to understand and remain in our identity as migrant Catholics in Arabia, united under a shepherd, working with the same aim, walking together the sensitive and delicate path of dialogue. So this is the context of our communication. I think I will wrap up on this note. I once again thank the parish catechetical department for their dedicated work. I'd like to express my admiration for all of you for your hard and dedicated work for passing the torch of faith to our children. I'd like to close with a few lines I read recently from the book, The 6 Tasks of Catechesis, by renowned educator, Sister Mary Kathleen Glavich of Sisters of Notre Dame. Being a catechist is a vocation. Thank you for answering God's call. Entrusting each one of you to Saint Joseph, our parish patron, who guided the Christ child through the desert, and to our Blessed Mother, we conclude by saying, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women. Blessed is the fruit of your womb, Jesus. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Dear Johnny John, on behalf of all of us present here, as well as those following online, we'd like to express our sincere appreciation for your presentation on Catechesis is communication. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences, as well as for all the insights and the pointers, including the importance of building a bond-building dialogue, like Jesus said. We have been informed, inspired, and challenged. With the uncertainty and the emotional disruption caused by COVID, your thoughts and comments were very timely and beneficial. We now know that we trust in God and depend on Him. Our communication will be a key to build relationships, thus building our community. Once again, our sincere thanks and appreciation for spending this time with us. May you be blessed in all you do. Thank you.